And I tell you something, embrace yourself, because Alex make me a question yesterday, and I was like, that's a good question. Like, I thought I knew the answer, but I was like, really think for hours and hours. So it's gonna be a very interesting night. Embrace yourselves.
Yeah, I think going back to the basics, sometimes we go through some questions and then just take them for granted. And when you go back and start studying back or just reading them, you start to think to yourself in new light and question yourself like why and how those things work. So yeah, it was a good reminder that we always have to keep on studying, keep on going. All right, so tonight we're gonna be starting to talk about the fundamentals of Spiritism. So we had the five from last Tuesday. So there was the existence of God, existence of spirits and their survival after death, reincarnation, multitude of inhabited worlds, and communicability of the spirits. So for this Tuesday and now Tuesday forwards, we're gonna get one topic per day, and we're gonna have our meeting about it. So the first one is gonna be existence of God. Let's go for it. So throughout humankind history, we can see people accepting or renouncing God in many ways and forms. So one example is the U.S. Declaration of Independence. So it says that all men are created equal by the Creator with unalienable rights. So like life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So every human being have these rights as a creature.
Should, I would say.
Yes.
Should have, but unfortunately not all of them have.
And then we have, for example, the French Declaration of the Rights of Man. So this Declaration of Human and Civic Rights, as also can be translated to, was crafted by philosophers, and it was the core concept of the French Revolution. So it states that the basic human rights comes from the government and not from God, and it sort of renounces God as the person or the entity that gives people those rights. So you can see the difference in time and in the concept of accepting or not God. Oh, that's another one. That's the Manifesto of the Community Party, 1848. So it's stating that materialism it's the way to go, and it's renouncing God. Go ahead, Colin.
Thank you. It seems early to be interjecting, but thank you for being patient. It seems that the resistance to honor a greater being has been rejected by many civilizations at particular times because of the murkiness that existed in those societies at the time in regards to religion versus government, rather than the spiritual connection to God. Yes. So it was in those times, especially in the 16, 17, 1800s, a rejection of the superiority of the church as it held its power over the people. And yes, especially in the Middle Ages, holding hands with government. It was religion and government that maintained the feudalistic framework for a governing state. Yes, so as the Reformation and the Renaissance moved into into their own power, there was a rejection, wasn't there, of the institution of the church, not so much the spirituality, but the institution of those that held themselves to be intermediaries between God and mankind. Yes. Would you agree with this?
Yeah, for sure. Especially because before that time, we had a lot of, I would say, pressure and oppression from the church itself.
Yes.
Especially with the Crusades a little bit earlier than that, but even with the Inquisition and so forth. So I think that was a time when the people like Karl Marx or other intellectuals started to like spread their wings and saying like, we don't have only church, we have other means to go about our business. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. It is interesting that it isn't the spiritual connection between man and God that is being challenged, but yes, the institution more than anything else. God was represented by the church, so God became the church,
Yeah.
almost one in the same in that time, because it had been so, what is that word, bastardized. Yes.
God was misrepresented by the church.
Yeah, yes.
Well, sorry.
Yes, sorry, you go.
No, I say, and still is. Like, he still is misrepresented by many other institutions nowadays, unfortunately.
Yes.
Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you.
Right, and then we had the Spiritism that would go and put God as the basis of everything. So it would be the source and the destination would be God. So getting a little bit different from all the other institutions or declarations that had at the time. So especially with the Spirit's book opening those doors and going to show a different way of thinking and of connection with God. Okay, so what is God? So these are some questions from the the Spirit's book. So that question that I said last Tuesday that I really like, that ask what is God and not who is God. So God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of everything. So anything that you want to know what was the cause, it was God at the core of it. So, and they ask, how should we define infinity? So as that which has no beginning and no end. And they ask, can we say that God is infinite? So that's it's very hard to describe that, because when they say in this case, the definition is incomplete. So we don't have the language to express the size of the qualities of God. So it's very hard for you to define something that you have no idea how to define, and you don't have the means to. So I think on the Spirit's book, they try to set some boundaries or some definitions of God, but I believe they're all incomplete, as that we don't have any means to correctly understand what is God.
I believe the first thing the spirits, when they were asked what is God, was to be clear that they didn't know. They just said it's the supreme intelligence, and that's it. That's finished, because there is no definition.
Yeah.
And infinite is a quality of God, not God himself itself. Yes, it is just one aspect, not or a feature or a characterization, but not the essence. Yes.
And if you try to describe or define something, you're putting limits on it, and like God has no limits. So it's very hard to do this distinction. Leon Denis says that the being that fills time and space will never be measured by beings that are limited by time and space. to define God would be to make the would make it sorry, to define God would make it finite and almost deniable. So yeah, that's what they're trying to say. Like if you try to define and put parameters on it, you make it something that's not infinite, and therefore you can deny its existences.
It's like asking a bit to define a computer.
Yep.
But this is the almost at the crux of what divides the world, isn't it? Because we have all wanted to put our definition on what God is. Yes, throughout the world, there, even within a faith, say even Christianity, there are so many definitions and so many different sects and organizations because we like a particular definition better than another. And so we choose which suits our comfortability more than what resonates in our souls. Yes, yes. It is disastrous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So who or what is God? We cannot really tell what it is. So if I could, Epictetus said, if I could say who or what God is, I would be God, or God would not be God. So yeah, all those philosophers trying to understand and saying that yeah, it's almost impossible for you to describe it. So how can we find some proof that God exists? So that's an axiom in science that states that there is no effect without a cause. So to look for the cause of whatever is not the work of human beings is the reason itself will answer your question. So you have things that are created by us that we know were inspired by other beings that were inspired by other beings. So yeah, you can always find a root cause going back to the creator.
I think this was actually a philosopher called St. Thomas of Aquinas. Is it calling St. Thomas of Aquino?
Maybe has another name.
I'm not sure about the name, the pronunciation, but he had the
Sir Thomas Aquinas.
Aquinas, yes,
Yes,
St. Thomas of Aquinas. Aquinas sounds like a horse, but anyway. But the St. Thomas of Aquinas, he had one famous, they called it 5 vias to prove the existence of God. And one of those was the cause and effect. If for everything, every effect, there is a cause, therefore God is the initial cause. And there is I don't remember the others, but there are 5, and all based on logic, pure logic.
Yeah, so you can see, like, if you have a look on our bodies, like the complexity and the perfection of it is, and yeah, it's hard to describe or to say, oh, that was just mere coincidence. Oh, too much. There you go. So you can say that the workman is known by his work or his workmanship. So you can find the builder will be known by his workmanship. So you know that there are some things that are just too perfect. Even if you see like a spider's web or the nature itself, it's of course we have the evolution itself, but yeah, always you have that touch of God on it. So that's a story from the Bible that someone asked a poor and ignorant Bedouin who was praying, and how could you believe in God? And he asked, by his works. And he explained, like, don't you recognize the origin of a jewel by the jewel's mark, or the handwriting the letter by the handwriting of the on the envelope. So you can always find the cause of everything by looking further and finding the primary essence of those things. And of course, we can use science, as we use science nowadays to prove everything and to make sure that everything is accounted for. Kardec used the parallelism between the Spiritism and science, especially in the domains of the astrophysics and cosmology. So they are science that you cannot have experimentation because it's just too far away, and you only have the observation to make and to be able to know that things are there, that things are moving. So you can only prove by looking. You cannot prove by taking a piece of it and testing.
Interestingly, from that point of view, we are in the same level of the primitive man on Earth, looking at the trees, looking at it, only could observe. And in regard to the cosmology, we only could see it. Not do anything but see it and try to take some reasoning. And can you imagine the reasoning that some of the primitives men's made? They thought that there was water at the end, or we might be doing the same with the cosmology.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so for example, we don't need to see a black hole to know they exist. For the longest time, we didn't have like visual of black holes or how they looked like, but we knew they were there because of the calculations and the observation that we can of their surroundings. You see the changing in time and space around the black hole, and then for the calculations, they managed to get there and say, oh, there is a something in there that is changing their surroundings. So they started to name those things, and it's something that Kardec used to study the spirits, because we cannot see them, or most of us cannot see them. But if you study the effects around us, you can go to the conclusion that they are here, they are speaking to us, or they are helping us, or trying to hinder us. But yeah, they are here and about. So yeah, as I said before, like we cannot get pieces of the fabric of the universe or of the sun to test. So we have to just observe, do the calculations, and make sure that we have all the data to get to the information. And that's what Kardec did with the spirits and the Spiritism. He tried to grab as much information from different places to get to the conclusions that he had put on those books. So here, Victor Hugo says that the impossibility to disprove God's existence proves that He does exist. As I said, like last week, I looked for, and according to science, there is a 67% chance that God exists. So yeah, if you cannot prove that something doesn't exist, there is a chance that it does exist. And God manifests through the life of the universe, and through our thoughts and the thoughts of all spirits and persons. So where can we find God? We can find God in nature, in our conscious. So especially, I think, in our conscious, we can feel always that pull and push from here and there, and can always feel that different presences on it, and you can feel that there are something else having effects on our minds. So here are the attributes of God that Spiritism try to set a basis of things that are the minimal aspects for God to be what it is. And so God is infinite and eternal, so it doesn't have a beginning as in length and end, and it doesn't have a beginning as in time and end as in it will die or stop of existing. God is unchangeable because he's perfect. So something that is perfect cannot be changed. You cannot improve something that's already perfect. God is immaterial. It's not a old man with a cape and a stick sitting on a throne. And that's the other question that I was asking Dai, that God is unique. There are no other gods. And why is that? Does anyone want to have a guess?
I really burned my head last night, so not good. Because if you think, like, we can barely imagine how to grasp what is the God that we try to understand, like that we know it's everything is within us. But can you imagine if like it's in a parallel universe, there is other gods, like our God, the way that we believe it is. So become a very roller coasters of thoughts last night, and we couldn't get an answer. But it's good. It's like, it's that joke that is good that you have more questions and more doubts in a good sense, because it makes you think and makes you search more. So it was a very interesting night last night.
So what was the question? I missed that.
What?
So it's saying here on the fourth attribute that God is unique. Why? Why can't we have two gods?
Can't.
Why can't we have two gods? Why it needs to be one? Why is this like a basic attribute of God?
Yeah, because if you have more than one God, then all the other attributes contradict this. Uniqueness is one of the it's one attribute that accept all the others, particularly infinite and eternal, and all powerful. I think is the uniqueness one of the most strong, one of the strongest, because it's it makes sense, because if you have two, you have comparison, you have uniqueness is the harmonization of all the other attributes.
Yep. Anyone else?
That's my view.
There is a quote in Conversations with God that was channeled by Neil Donald Walsh in the 1990s. It is a series of books, 7 conversations, 7 books, conversing with God. And God speaks to Neil. Neil says, so are you it? Are you it? And God responds and says, for however long it takes, we will be here working together towards oneness. And once we are one, once all man has lost his need to place his ego above others, once he has placed his fragile sense of importance to one side, once we know and understand each other, and on that final day of judgment, that is not judgment of God, but judgment of man against man. And on that final day, when we become one with life, one with God, then there is a further chapter to unfold. So it is a suggestion that once we have become fully awakened in our oneness with God, then there is a further adventure to embark on.
See, maybe God have brothers and sisters on all the universes, and we're not aware, because we don't have the intelligence to grasp like what is like our God here, the one that's guiding our lives.
So Neil says, so what's coming next? And God says, it is not for you to understand nor to comprehend because of how fantastic it is.
But
And
that's
this is the same as Kardec saying, through the spirit, we cannot absorb everything all at once. It is one step at a time. Yes.
yeah. I like that one because it speaks specifically of the relationship of the mankind with God,
Yes.
not
Yes.
anything else.
Yes.
Just the relationship, strictly the relationship between mankind and God. And there is not something that's going to be finito. It's, well, when you reach that, then you move on.
Yes. Yes.
That's beauty. It's a beauty.
Yes. Yes. And exciting.
Yeah.
I love it. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So what I reached on my research was that if there was more than one God, they would have limits because astronaut one would not interfere with the other one. So that's one impossibility. And also the laws could be different from one to the other. So one could say something and the other would say another thing and would generate chaos and disharmony everywhere. And it is said that God is the first cause of everything. And if you had many, like which one? So yeah.
Another thing as well, Alex, it immediately contradicts with the infinity, because something to be infinity needs to be unique. Otherwise, the limit isn't the next one.
Yeah. If they are the same thing, yeah.
If we have another universe.
God is for all the universes.
No, like beyond.
That's
I'm still struggling with that one since yesterday.
That's what was said in the beginning. We don't have the language and understanding to get to the bottom of this.
Nor the concepts or, yes, the depth of beauty for what is to unfold. Yes. Yes.
And finishing that up, so God is all powerful, so he can do anything, and is just and good. So those are the six, yes, six qualities, the basic qualities of God for God to be God. And so these are the minimum requirements for the role. So here I have some thoughts and passage from Einstein saying that everyone who is seriously involved in the pursuit of science becomes convinced that a spirit is manifested in the laws of the universe, a spirit vastly superior to that of a man, and one in the face of which we with our modest powers must feel humble. So Einstein also said that he believed that in Spinoza's God. So Spinoza's God is God. It's a God that's not that God is all and all is God. So is that unity, and it's not a person. God is necessity and order, and not in a God that keeps tabs of every action that we perform. He leaves this to our own consciousness. So that's something that we always say in Spiritism. God's not there. Oh, it is there, but it's not keeping tabs of what you did, what you didn't do, and we'll get you a list when you die to see, well, you were bad here, or you were mean here, and you were good there. Your own consciousness will keep track of that, and will keep on reminding you to be better. So yeah, it's not there with the computer ready to drop things, the piano on your head when it's time to go. And yeah, so in the times like the last, I would say, 100 years, science has been evolving a lot. So there's been always this debate between science and God, and one disproving the other. But we know in the end that one is just helping each other to get to the right concept. So science will get to a point that will prove that yes, spirits exist, reincarnation, and God is around us. So yeah, God is not the result. It's the God's not the result of all forces and intelligence on the universe. It's the source. So it's the root cause. So there is no pantheism. Here was an interesting photo showing the expansion of the galaxy and by the time. So yeah, so you had the Big Bang, the Dark Ages, and then the development of galaxies, planets, and everything. So yeah, since the beginning, and yeah, God was there at the beginning. Before that, we don't know what happened before that, but everything is expanding. So we don't know if it's going to continue expanding or if it's going to contract again. So that was scenes for the next chapter that we're probably not going to be incarnated to see. So the odds against a universe like ours emerging out of something like the Big Bang are enormous. So yeah, according to the science, that's only one of the only causes that could have proportionate like the way that the universe is now. And clearly there are some religious implications whenever you start to discuss the origins of the universe, because yeah, we don't know what happened before. And especially like at the time, like 1950s or even earlier than that, we didn't have the technology to look further than some years ago in other planets. So yeah, there's always that religious thought in the beginning of things.
This is an amazing admission by Stephen Hawking. That is Stephen Hawking, and he was one of the great scientists that supported and at least to one of the scientists who basically proved or with a great deal of scientific evidence, the existence of the universe beginning with the Big Bang. But here he said the odds against the Big Bang happening, the odds against it are enormous. So he is discounting his own theory. And this is quite extraordinary. Both Stephen Hawking and Einstein are admitting that there are enormous gaps that are unable to be bridged by science as it is, because it is so stilted in the way in which science is conducted. Scientific experiments and investigations are conducted. Yes. It is also interesting that Albert Einstein, published these views in the later part of his life. And it was for these views that many scientists turned their backs on Einstein and said he had gone soft. And not soft in spirit, but soft in his head. Yes.
Thank you.
It is fascinating.
Yes.
But also, I just read recently that there is a new theory about the Big Bang itself that Hawking said it may be that's not the start. And nowadays there is a new chain of thoughts that says that the Big Bang may be the end and not the beginning. It's like an explosion of the end of the universe and not the beginning of our universe. Anyway, because it will still expanding, right?
Yes.
Anyway, just a note.
This is brilliant. Yes.
Thank you, Carmen. So yeah, and here we have some other people talking about this, and yeah, so the perfection of the universe, which is the effect points us to the perfect creator that is God. So somehow intelligence must have been involved in the laws of the universe, so they can see that it's all too perfect and too interconnected to be just mere happenings. And that's it for today, people.
There you go.
It is. Can I make an observation? Yes.
Yeah, of course.
For those that Danielle, yes, we haven't met, Larissa and Ricarda. Yes, I speak through my mum. I was born lacking oxygen, and from that time, the treatment by hospitals and by community services and by those that surrounded us were sitting in pity for how I turned out. Yes. In the English language from Great Britain, the word shame is used a lot, especially from Ireland. People say, oh, shame. Yes, it is a shame. Yes. How extraordinary that God, in all of the magnificence of perfection of life throughout the universes, can create such a being as myself. Yes. And it is, I sense, a challenge for those, particularly from faiths that believe that those that are with afflictions are paying for their debts. Those with afflictions are abnormal or not as good as or broken. And I sense it is not in a sense of pride, in the egoic sense, but a pride of counting myself amongst the creations of life, that I am created perfect. For the presence of those that are different require for all to step up, to improve their game, to look beyond themselves, and to assist those that need help to grow. It is in compassion that the likes of me come along to assist in the evolution of mankind, in the development of, what is it? Our awakening. Yes, yes. To see that nothing is lost. Everything has a purpose. Everything is rich and marvelous, and everything conspires for us. Nothing conspires against us. Yes, yes. It is an exciting life if we see everything marvelous in the creation of perfection. Yes, yes.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any other comments?
Thanks, Colleen.
All right, let's go to the second part. I'm gonna be reading. No, it's all right. A prayer for us is not much of prayer, but it's sort of a poem. So if we can all relax in our chairs, close your eyes if you want, and just focus on the message. I see God in a child's smile, in the sky, ocean, and in the light of nature. I see God shining with the stars, in the eyes of a mother looking at her child, in beautiful nights by the moonlight. God's heart beats in everything. I see God in flowers and fields, in stars rolling around the infinite. I hear God in the voice of sweethearts and feel God in the tears of the afflicted. I perceive God in the word that forgives. I see God in the hand that caresses. I hear God in creatures in flight, and I feel God in peace and joy. I see God in a doctor who saves. I foresee God in the pain that unites us. I discover God in the wise man that tries to understand human nature. I see God in a kind gesture. I hear God in the hymns believers sing. I perceive God in the sun, in freedom, and I see God in the plants and the seeds. Finally, I see God everywhere, that everything speaks of his powers. I discover God when art is expressed. In people's love, I also feel God. But the most beautiful place I feel God, in his most sublime vibration, is not in the heart of nature. It's inside my own heart. That's it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for
Very good.
a more
Very good.
wonderful night, and hope to see everyone next week.
Just have a question for Daniel. Daniel, wasn't you the ones going to BS? Have you been in BSC before? Brisbane Spitzer.
Yes,
Brisbane.
I have.
I knew you from somewhere. I
Yes,
see.
that was
I see
me.
that. Yeah. Oh, he's much more comfortable, isn't
Yes, because I can't speak Portuguese.
he?
So, but I loved the experience. I did, and then I'm very grateful for Helga and Marcella for connecting me with this group.
Yeah.
And we still have a catch up once a week as well. But yes, that's Thank you for having me.
I was there observing and think myself, oh my God, she must be suffering. She cannot understand what they're talking, and I feeling really anxious. But I was about to talk about past, but I refrain myself. But yes, I'm very glad that you're here.
Thank you. I do love it because sometimes you don't. It's nice to not use the mind too much, and then you can feel it instead.
Yes,
and being in the presence of everybody was very special and very meaningful in a new way for me. So it was lovely. I really appreciated it.